Alright, so today I'm going to be discussing to you the importance of why protecting gun laws in the United States of America is an important thing that a lot of people have one opinion about it and other people have another opinion, and the line is very clear cut and dry. So there's a couple arguments about it that I want to bring forward and show you guys why I believe that protecting gun rights is the right way to go moving forward into the future. So the first argument that a lot of people have is that increasing gun restrictions decreases crime. In the state of Illinois, a lot of people use Chicago as an example. In Chicago, according to NPR News in 2016, there were over 4,000 shooting victims. These were people that were involved in homicides and other, they weren't just necessarily killed, but they were also shot at. So the only thing is that in Illinois, there's required to be a waiting list, and to buy a gun, you also have to have a certain type of license, which to be on this waiting list, it really deters a lot of people that really just want to get out and do a crime that day. So why are there so many guns? Why is this out of control? A lot of people are saying that the gun laws, I believe the gun laws they're not doing their job, even though there's a ton of restrictions on them. There's another way we have to do something about that. The next argument a lot of people have is that in the Bill of Rights, they say the Second Amendment says the right to keep and bear arms was just for a well-regulated militia. A lot of people associate a militia with like an armed forces group. But this is different. Under U.S. Code Title 10, Section 246, a militia of the United States consists of all able-bodied men between 17 and 45. So this is what a well-regulated militia is looking like, what they're saying. Just regular guys, ages 17 to 45, that own a firearm, that in case something comes up, they're ready to just respond. So that's the way it happened during the Revolutionary War. People were average guys, they were carpenters, they were farmers, they were tradesmen, and they just picked up their arms and went and fought, one of the biggest army of the world at the time. And that's how America's here today. So without militias, which were just regular guys, America wouldn't even be here today. And this was set up so that it could safeguard future generations against the tyrannical government like what existed in Great Britain in the 1700s. The next argument that a lot of people say is that the suicide rate in America would fall if we had a lot more gun restrictions. But in fact, Johns Hopkins University did a study, and they found that only 10% of the people in the United States that attempt suicide actually use a firearm. So my whole idea about this is, if there's a whole other 90%, why are we just focusing on that 10%? It really just looks like a whole other way, people that have an agenda against firearms, that they're just going to use this as an excuse. An example of this, with a lot of gun restrictions, is Japan actually has 0.6 guns in that country for every 100 people. So there's very little gun ownership. They have a ton of gun restrictions. You in fact have to take a full day class, and you have to shoot on a range, and you have to shoot over 95% marksmanship to get that, to get the license to actually buy a firearm. So there's a ton of restrictions. But in 2007, they had 0.6 guns per 100 people in that country, but yet it had its second record high amount of suicides in that country. Over 33,000 people committed suicide that year. So how is that connected? The numbers just do not add up. So this right here is a picture of some gangsters in the 1930s, famous names like Al Capone and Babyface Nelson. This connects to the National Firearms Act passed by Congress in 1934. This was the first form of gun restriction that was used in America. It was passed by Congress as a tax on weapons that were not necessarily used for hunting, but more like the Thompson machine gun that a lot of gangsters used at the time. But what it really didn't do was it didn't really prevent gun crime. What prevented the gun crime was that in 1933 the prohibition was annulled, and all the gangsters' money, where they earned a lot of it from bootlegging and stuff through illegal alcohol sales, went away. So that really brought the crime down. So really the gun restrictions didn't have a whole lot to do with that. So with all that being said, there's a whole lot of different questions you can ask yourself. Every individual has their own mindset about whether they think guns should be more restricted or whether they should be left alone. I believe that the numbers just don't add up. With a lot of the stuff that goes on, a lot of the arguments people have, and I believe that guns can be used for a great thing. They can be used in a safe way. They can be used for hunting, getting out and spending time with your family, harvesting food. They can be used for spending time on the range, shooting for marksmanship with friends or in competitions, and also, if anything ever happens, to defend yourself or your property. So I believe that moving forward, gun restrictions in America are not the right option. So I hope you learned something today, and I hope I've persuaded you to think that too.